How was getting shot in the stomach not an immediate death sentence? Do they stitch your intestines back together? Yup. Stitch, glue or clamp them together. What about all the nasty waste and bacteria that escapes? They flush the wound and the area around it clean, then you get antibiotics against the infection in the event that something irreparably damages your intestines. What do? Do they have synthetic intestines, or do they just shorten your digestive tract? They almost always cut a good chunk off. In the worst case scenario, you'll have to use a colostomy bag for the rest of your life. Medical professional here working with bowel patients. Trauma to the bowel of this magnitude would often result in a stoma. They divert part of the healthy bowel out through the abdomen, and the output is then collected in a colostomy or ileostomy bag. The bowel is a pretty amazing part of the body. You can live a fairly normal life with no large intestines at all. The bowel adapts to the change, and the small intestine starts doing the job of the large intestine. Depending on the extent of the damage, this may be temporary or permanent. In the case of a temporary stoma, once the damaged bowel has healed, they can reattach it. If you got shot in the stomach, do they stitch your intestines back together? Yes. What about all the nasty waste and bacteria that escapes? They give you antibiotics for that. And clean you up. In the event that something irreparably damages your intestines, what do? They would shorten or even remove the digestive tract. You can survive without it. You just have to go on Roman 4 for the rest of your life. A dude who provided a lot of early information on workings of the digestive system had an open hole blown in his stomach. Edit, hole, not home. That's a whole different issue, but it's usually rent controlled, so that's nice. You might assume people shot in the stomach bleed out, but they usually don't. If it's fatal, they probably died from sepsis, not blood loss. Sepsis is horrible, but it isn't an instant kill and can be avoided with quick medical care. If no vital organ is shot or you are not bleeding out before you get to the hospital, chances are pretty high. The procedure is similar to gut rupture, and it is not something you wanted to watch. Surgical team will open you from your pelvis to ribcage, kind of scoop your guts into big bowl, wash them from all the nasty stuff, vacuum the remaining blood from you, remove damaged parts, and sew together. Yes, it will shorten your intestines, but you can easily live with that. Then they will shove everything back and give you a cocktail full of antibiotics. You will probably feel your organs moving when they start returning to original places, but that is just a cherry on the top. I hope I wasn't too explicit. Maybe you should ask a gut-shot policeman. Theany.com. Ask gut-shot policeman 1,008,1935. I don't have an answer, but used to work in the largest single-site jail in the US. So many young and otherwise healthy young men mainly, but not all men, I should say, with colostomy bags for this reason. Fucking heartbreaking, but also a pretty amazing testament to the resilience of the human body. In some cases, anyway, most of those folks don't have great access to healthcare and are probably fucked long term. Good question. Wondering the same thing. If you arrive at the hospital with a gunshot wound, you have a very good chance of surviving. They know how to fix that with surgery and antibiotics. People survive getting shot in the head too. Blows my mind, pun not intended. In Call of Duty, that's instant death s. It was for Tywin Lannister. It often is if not treated. My kid's father got shot in the stomach, and his mom just gave him ginger ale and told him drink it while it's cold. We had 2 kids a few years later. Stomach and intestines are separate things. Stomach injuries can be sutured or cauterized or whatever closed. Intestines can be resected if needed. As for waste and bacteria, the cavity is flushed and flushed and flushed to clean it out. And then a flood of antibiotics, and then maybe probiotics to help rebuild the gut flora. You start to digest yourself with a gut shot. I've heard it's one of the worst ways to die. I was a medic in the army in the mid-60s. In training, we were shown a very graphic film on abdominal surgery in Korea. All sorts of nasty abdominal wounds from shrapnel and bullets of all kinds. All the victims survived. The only way an abdominal wound will be quickly fatal is if a major artery is transected. Short of that, it's a matter of opening the victim up and suturing or resecting damage and doing extensive lavage washing of the abdominal cavity. Post-surgery, massive doses of antibiotics as well. Modern medicine is amazing. Without a great doctor, you are dead though. Your heart, your head, and your major arteries are the only things that are immediate death sentences. Why? Because your brain is the computer that controls everything. Without that, nothing else can keep going. As for your heart and arteries, you need fuel to power everything. Without fuel, it can't run. Everything else can be fixed. It might take time and work, and it might not be successful, but it has a better chance than the others.